Reading from the book of Isaiah, there in the 64th chapter. Oh, that you would tear the heavens and come down, so that the mountains would quake at your presence. As when the fire kindles brushwood, and the fire causes water to boil, to make your name known to your adversaries, so that all the nations might tremble at your presence. When you did awesome deeds that we did not expect, you came down. The mountains quaked at your presence. From ages past, no one has heard, no ear has perceived, no eye has seen any God besides you, you who works for those who wait for you. You meet those who gladly do right, those who remember you in your ways. But you're angry, and we sinned. Because you hid yourself, we transgressed. We have all become like one who is unclean, and all our righteous deeds are like a filthy cloth. We all fade like a leaf, and our iniquities like the wind take us away. There is no one who calls on your name or attempts to take hold of you, for you have hidden your face from us. You have delivered us into the hand of our iniquity. Yet, O Lord, you are our Father. We are the clay, and you are our potter. We are all the work of your hand. Do not be exceedingly angry, O Lord. Do not remember iniquity forever. Consider, we are all your people. Turning then to the New Testament, we read there this day in the Gospel according to Mark, in the 13th chapter. As for yourselves, beware, for they will hand you over to councils, and you will be beaten in synagogues, and you will stand before governors and kings because of me, as a testimony to them. If anyone says to you at that time, "Look, here is the Messiah," or "Look, there he is," do not believe it. False messiahs and false prophets will appear. They will produce signs and omens to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. But be alert. I have already told you everything you need. But in those days, after that suffering, the sun will be darkened. The moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in clouds with great power and glory. Then he will send out the angels and gather his elect from the four winds, from the ends of the earth to the ends of heaven. From the fig tree, learn its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see these things taking place, you know that God is near, at the very gates. Truly I tell you, this generation will never pass away until all these things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. About that day and hour no one knows, neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, only the Father. Beware. Keep alert, for you do not know when the time will come. There is a vow that we make at every baptism, at every wedding, and we rekindle at memorials. You are part of the body of Christ. You are part of our lives. Your joys are our joys. Your laughter brings joy to our hearts and makes us laugh as well. Your sorrows are our sorrows, and your tears burn our hearts and cheeks as well. You are part of us. God is part of your life, and that will never, ever go away. From the book of Genesis, in the very beginning, we hear the words that in the beginning there was God. And God created the heavens and the earth, And the earth was formless and void. Shadows of dark covered the face of the deep, where the light had never yet been, while the Spirit of God brooded over the face of the waters. And God commanded that there be light, and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the dark. Having witnessed images of blackness in space, images from the Hubble telescope and from Skylab, images as we've all gone out into our backyards and stared up at the heavens, images in our own bedrooms at night when we've awoken in terror at nightmares and hopelessness. We know the fear of the dark. In the words of Genesis, we can use our imagination to envision a time before time, a space before this reality where God had not yet entered in. And it was formless, and it was shapeless, and everything was dark, as if there were no God. But even there, God entered in, God brooded over, and God called light to be. The difficulty we struggle with is that when God called light into the darkness and separated the two, God did not eliminate the dark. God did not eliminate hopelessness by creating hope. But instead, there is a balance to life. There is an order, that there is both hopelessness that gives meaning to the hope, and dark that gives reality to the light. Part of our free will is our choice, which we will choose, whether we prefer to live in the dark or whether we prefer to live in the light. There's a certain clandestine fun to being terrorized, to living in the dark, to keeping secrets. Even our 2- and 3-year-olds know at this time of year that there are secrets, and we enjoy keeping something from others that others do not know. There is a certain joy to playing in the dark, to hiding where no one can find you and no one knows you're even there. But the danger, the difficulty is that our secrets have a power unto themselves. The dark is a vacuum that as we play in it, sucks us in deeper and deeper, and we tell half-truths and lies to perpetuate the secrets, to remain in the dark. The last several weeks, like WikiLeaks, there have suddenly come to light a whole number of individuals whom we trusted, individuals with power who abused that power. People whom we invited into our homes in the earliest part of the day before we'd ever had our cup of coffee, as we gathered together over meals, even before we went to sleep at night. We trusted that they would tell us the truth, that they would be welcome in our home as providing for us what we needed. It is no surprise that these who had such great power in the world succumbed to that power, succumbed to their own desires. It is overwhelming how many have done so, but it should be no surprise that we are human. This last week on Tuesday at 5 o'clock in the morning, the hospital that we have built in South Sudan, the village around it, was attacked by a neighboring tribe. In the wake, 44 people were killed. Another 15 received gunshot wounds that put them in the hospital, and another 66 were taken as slaves. That this could happen in the 21st century is appalling. It is horrific. It's even more painful for us because this, for the first time in the 10 years that we have provided for this mission, is the first time ever that hospital workers, nurses and cooks and ambulance drivers were among those who were killed. And we take it personally, that they were acting on our behalf. They were there as the presence of Christ in the world, caring for those who were starving and those who were in need for us. And they were killed for it. But it should come as no surprise. For as long as anyone can remember throughout all time, these tribes have lived side by side at war. They have fought like in the Old West with grange wars, where one would burn the crops of the other, one would steal the cattle of the other. They fought over the land, they fought over cattle, they fought over sexual partners. And they created slaves. So it is that at 5 o'clock in the morning, when people were just awaking, when they were unarmed and unable to defend themselves, 30 youth came into the village and committed a mass murder. Over the years, we've taken for granted that it was safe. Your pastor went and developed relationships and friendships and ate meals and worshiped God with this people. Others from our congregation, contractors, went and served and built the hospital. Doctors and nurses from this congregation went, along with those from George Washington University, and again with your pastor, to care for those who were in need. And for 10 years, we built one success upon another, and we began to believe, naively, that all was in the light, all was safe. But we neglected the secrets, that mothers nursing their infants would sing to them lullabies of when you grow up big and strong and adult, your purpose in life is to kill that other tribe. Your purpose in life is to spread hate, because it was hate that took generations from us. It should be no surprise for us that there is hate in the world, that there is darkness. But the truth, the light that comes in, that ought to be amazing for us, that we all should want to come and see, is that when light comes into the world, all the secrets disappear. The world doesn't end because the secrets are revealed. The world does not end because the light shines in the darkness, but instead, all the shadows and all our fears and all the power of the secrets dissolves. Across the world, there are so many different churches, each of which called All Saints Church, when the reality is that every church, everyone in the church, from the ministers and elders and deacons down through every baptized member, know ourselves to be sinners. We know ourselves to have done wrong, to have failed to reveal the secrets, to have failed to speak up when we could have. But we are the church, and we forgive, and we work together, and we trust, and we care for one another no matter what. It is not that we subject ourselves to being fooled, not that we're here to forgive so you can sin boldly, but rather no matter what, no matter how deep the darkness, how great the shadows, how much the sin, still light can enter in, still there can be forgiveness and hope and love. I would admit to you as your pastor, after 30-odd years in the ministry, a few weeks ago I was humbled to tears in the service as a young child stood up on a Sunday morning during the pastoral concerns and described that week he was going to the doctor because his hair had been falling out. And as a child, it was odd. And his mom and dad wanted to know why. And we told him that no matter what, with all the tests that would come, with all that would be found out, his joys would be our joys. His sorrows would be our sorrows. His tears would be our tears. We love him, And he is a part of us for all of his life and for all memory yet to come. Nothing can ever take him away from us. He is not. You are not alone. Ever. We're not hidden in the dark. Instead, we are seen and we are known for who we are, and you are loved. This passage from Isaiah is among our favorites. Isaiah has so many that we are reminded of over and over. Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. All flesh is grass, grass withers, the flower fades, but the love of God endures forever. They will rise up like eagles. They will mount up with wings. They will run and not grow weary. But this is a word of lament. This is a word we each feel so often. God, if you are really God, come down and be God. How can there be atrocities? How can there be mass killings? How can there be sexual abuses by people in power that get away with it? If you are truly God, intervene and stop it. Come into our world. The difficulty is that we live in a bifurcated world, a compartmentalized life, in which we come to worship on Sunday morning, and for 1 hour out of the whole week, we want to know God. And then we go about our lives as if God did not exist, as if living in the darkness, living our own secrets with our own power, as if there were no God. The reality is that if we want God in our lives, we can't have it just a little bit. Believing in God is like being pregnant. If you are a little bit, you are totally, and it becomes more and more in our lives. So what the prophet and priest of Isaiah describes is would that the heavens were ripped open. Once and for all, broken apart, so that God would enter in and nothing would ever separate us from God. God could be in our every part of life. There would be no secrets. There would be nothing hidden. There would be dark and there would be light, but God would be in all of it with us. There would be a death to our killing. There would be an end to our hate. Instead, God would be a part of all of our lives. We would demand the impossible, that the Creator would become part of our everyday life, that there would be no hopelessness any longer, but instead we would look each other in the eye. We would stand beside each other and affirm one another that there can be no hopelessness, for you are not alone. There is, I think, a mistranslation in the 5th verse. In English, we swapped the passages so that it comes across as God was angry and we sinned. Not one of us can claim that we sinned because God made us do it. The reality is that we reversed the passages. We sinned, and God became angry. We sinned, and God hid God's self from us, so that we would have to choose. Do we want God, or do we not? The question of this passage, when we get the verses in the right order, that we sinned and God became angry, then leads to the conclusion of that chapter. Having sinned all of our lives, having sinned for so many generations, generation after generation, throughout all of our human time, can God still forgive? The sins of all humanity, the hatred that's been there from time immemorial, can God forgive even this? Advent is 4 short weeks. 4 brief weeks out of all the year in which we believe in the already and the not yet together. As if there is past and there is future, and the two are side by side, so that we believe that God who entered in will enter in again, that God will not leave us alone. There's an old carol that we sing at this time of year of, you better not cry, you better not pout, you better not cry, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. And instead, we should change the identity here, that the one we're looking for is the Messiah, is coming into our lives. So you better not pout, you better not cry. I'm telling you why. Because God is about to enter into our lives. There will be nothing separate. Everything will be revealed. There's an excitement that we each know in our houses when friends come to visit, when grandparents are coming, and the children are filled with excitement about what is about to be. Those whom they've seen long, long ago, who they haven't seen in almost a year, perhaps far longer, are about to come and share our lives with us. What great excitement! These who are part of our lives, that our lives would not be here except that they are coming. That is how we feel about God, the Messiah, coming into our lives with that expectation and that hope. The ironic part is that throughout all the years, this passage from Mark has become a description about the end of the world, an apocalypse like Nostradamus that describes there will come an end, just as there was a beginning. There will come times when the sun will burn itself out, when the moon will be darkened and the night will be black, when stars will fall from the heavens and earthquakes and floods and disasters will come. But this is not all that there is. As much as there may be a beginning and an end, we believe in an afterlife, a time with God forever. For the last many months, we have endured the seasons. Somehow we have, in our human nature, come to believe that there is spring, that eventually those buds turn into flowers, turn into fruit, and we have summer, and that grows until there's a harvest, and we experience the fall. And then there's death, the cold, dark harshness of winter. But I would tell you instead that this is a complete cycle that happens over and over again throughout our lives, and winter is only that period of fermentation, that period in which all that has been is decomposing and fermenting and getting ready to burst forth into something new. How many of us in our homes have raked up the leaves that have fallen? How many of us have put weather stripping on and extra coats and sweaters and layers because the seasons are changing and it's getting more cold? But there is to come a time before very long when the longest night of all the year, the shortest time of light in our lives, will begin to grow into the shortest darkness and the greatest light. When this will be, no one knows. Not you or I or even Jesus. Only God. God who knows all things. But that there will come a spring, that there will come hope and light and life into our lives will be forever, because you are precious. You are loved. Your joy is our joy. Your laughter brings laughter to our hearts. Your tears burn our cheeks and hearts. And your sorrows and sadness are felt by us. Even when we die, We are part of one another's life, never to be forgotten, forevermore. We demand the impossible, the very best out of each one, and God in our lives. Amen.